Hi, everybody, and welcome back. I'm James Powell. You may know me as co-chair of the NumFOCUS Board of Directors. You may know me as vice president of PyData with a purview over all global PyData conferences and meetups, or you might know me as the guy at the Python conferences in the suit. I'm really excited to speak to Aaron Richter, a data scientist at SaturnCloud today. Aaron's going to share with us a little bit about how SaturnCloud, an early stage startup, has invested in the PyData ecosystem and the open source scientific computing ecosystem. But I also want to share with you a little detail. I know one of the founders of SaturnCloud, Hugo. I've known Hugo for a couple of years now, and I've known that even before founding SaturnCloud, Hugo has had an investment and an interest in supporting the open source scientific computing ecosystem, the PyData ecosystem, and the PyData community. So I'm very excited to hear more from Aaron about what SaturnCloud is up to. So Aaron, would you like to introduce yourself to all of our PyData global attendees watching this from home?
Sure. Hi, my name's Aaron Richter. I'm a data scientist, data engineer, started off as a software developer and kind of came into the data science world right when the big data wave was taking over. So I did a lot of distributed computing back in the day. I did a lot of machine learning and data science in the PyData ecosystem. Now I'm a senior data scientist at SaturnCloud. SaturnCloud is an end-to-end data science and machine learning platform for data scientists and their teams to take the most advantage of the PyData ecosystem and scale that on using Dask and Rapids. So my focus at SaturnCloud is to ensure that people know how to use these tools most effectively. And I also help clients kind of migrate some of their maybe single node Python workloads into cluster computing or GPU computing. We're all about making it really easy for people to accelerate their workloads, abstracting away a lot of infrastructure and hardware setup, so that way data scientists can focus on writing code, building models, creating visualizations, and then creating value at their companies.
Aaron, tell me a little bit about what open source tools, especially tools from the PyData stack, that y'all use at SaturnCloud.
Yeah, so we do a lot in the open source and PyData community. There's a couple of places where we use the tools, one in our product, and then ways that we enable our users to take advantage of open source tools. So in the product, we use things like Docker and Kubernetes for containerization, hosting all of our apps, and we'll utilize a lot of the open source Dask and Jupyter components because that's part of our product offering. And then for the web app, we use Vue.js.
What's your favorite open source project?
My favorite open source project in the PyData community and really focusing on the accelerated computing space, I would say is Rapids. I think that's really exciting because it's pushing all of this data science computation onto the GPU, and you see a lot of performance increases. And I personally really believe that this is the future of kind of accelerated computing and data science computing. It just makes sense to do your stuff on the GPUs because it's faster.
SaturnCloud also uses Conda Forge quite heavily. How does Conda fit into this environmental management strategy?
Yeah, and so one of the ways that we support defining an environment is through a Conda environment file. So you can copy and paste your YAML that you would normally use for like a Conda env create. And that's typically the way that I really create a lot of my environments and that we recommend as well, because that way Conda is doing the solving, it's figuring out which packages are compatible, it'll let you know if there are incompatibilities, and then we'll kind of take over that part. Once Conda has created that Python environment, we'll make sure that that gets hooked up into the Docker, and that way, all of your nodes are now using the same Conda environment.
So I know SaturnCloud is a fairly young company, but has already made a name for itself contributing to the PyData community. After all, you're one of our sponsors for PyData Global. What motivates SaturnCloud to be a contributor to the community in this way from the very birth of the company?
Yeah, so from the beginning, we have always been full on open source PyData community. It's really part of our business success. Our entire goal is to ensure that data scientists and data science teams can successfully use the PyData ecosystem, scale their code with Dask. So we wanted to make sure that we were contributing from the beginning because we're relying on top of these awesome packages. We want to make sure that we can continue to contribute to them by actually adding code to them, contributing to events and pushing forward the community, because this is really, honestly, it's central to our business. So not only is it make sense commercially for us, because if these open source packages are good, people are going to continue to use Saturn, but also we truly believe in these packages and in this community, because it has such a great impact across all businesses when we can do good data science. So from those two aspects, that's why we've always been kind of open source first from the beginning.
So, what would you say to a colleague at a similarly sized early stage startup to try to convince them to employ their limited resources to better engagement with the community?
Yeah, I would say from the beginning, it's open source is awesome because there are so many different people working on different problems. You can usually find an open source package that solves your problem. But that all of the reason that that open source package exists is because somebody was passionate about it. Someone was spending their time, sometimes even their nights and weekends, on working on that package. You know, we hear stories a lot of some of the top open source packages have 3 or 5 core maintainers who have kind of been doing this on the side or on a volunteer basis. So if you think about all of the money as a business that you would spend on tools for, you know, email and managing all of your employees and any other thing where you would kind of like spend money on a commercial offering, you get this open source stuff for free, but it still requires people to contribute and people who create that. So from the beginning, it kind of just makes sense to contribute there. Also, you want to make sure that this open source tool that you might be depending on is going to stick around for the future, that if bugs are going to come out, they can be fixed. So first, if you can kind of contribute to the package financially, you can know that there will be people there funded to kind of work on those things. And even better, if you can commit an employee or resource on your team to contributing directly to those packages, you now know that it's going to kind of be stable. You know, if something goes wrong, somebody's right in there talking to the maintainers, working with them, and they can get it fixed. That has happened a lot for us at Saturn. Is, you know, I would run into a problem with Dask, and then I would kind of talk to some of my colleagues, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I saw that issue just 3 days ago, and there are these people working on it." And it really helps a lot to be that well connected to a community, especially for packages that you really count on.
So let me ask you this. If you were interviewing for a new job and the company asked you, what excites you most about this position? How would you try to convince them to increase their contribution to open source or even start contributing to open source? How would you try and convince them that it's worthwhile for you as a new hire to be more invested in open source?
Yeah, I think especially thinking about the being in the space of kind of tools focused work, um, it would I would really want to convince any sort of employer, my future employer, to commit to open source because first of all, it creates this authority in the community. So when people see that your staff members are actually contributing to these open source packages that they're using, when they're answering their questions, when they're fixing bugs, it shows that you as a company actually know what you're doing, are investing in this tool, and then people who want to buy whatever product or service you're offering have a lot more trust in what you're doing because you're there at the core, building kind of in the weeds, making sure everything's working.
So, Aaron, PyData Global is not the first PyData conference that you've attended. Outside of just the software, PyData to a lot of people means a community of like-minded users. What interests you or excites you or engages you most about the PyData community?
PyData has been an awesome community for me. My first exposure to it was through the PyData Miami group that's actually relatively new, and I was able to help kind of build that up, be part of the organizing efforts, and do a conference here. But I would say that this PyData community probably is the biggest community thing that even gave me my job at Saturn. I wouldn't have known about SaturnCloud. I actually met SaturnCloud through PyData before I even started working there. So for me personally, it's been a great avenue for my own career growth. I've been able to meet awesome people, that even people who have created big open source packages and these kind of more celebrity names that you would hear and see on Twitter or kind of see contributing to packages, and like, wow, you know, those people are really smart and doing awesome things. I'm able to either sit in the same room with them, meet them, talk to them, see them at different conferences virtually currently. But I think the PyData community has been really great for this entire ecosystem of tools. But even just as a data scientist trying to kind of progress my career, meet people, network, it's been an awesome community.
If you knew somebody who is interested in applying to work at SaturnCloud, what might you tell them to take that from merely interested to really excited?
I'd say if you want to be able to contribute to the future of data science and the future of accelerated computing, you should apply to work at SaturnCloud. We're on the cutting edge of a lot of tools that I really believe are going to change the way that people interact with data and compute with data. So you should definitely check us out.
So in addition to contributing back to the projects, what else does SaturnCloud do to contribute back to the community?
Yeah, so Saturn is really committed to not only the code, but also to the community of people that are learning all of these tools. So we, especially in these COVID times, all of the meetups have gone virtual. So we've helped to host and sponsor some PyData meetups, particularly with the New York City, Miami, and Philadelphia groups. And we've been working on helping getting speakers, helping getting software, and making sure that those communities can continue to kind of keep moving forward as well. So I'm excited to participate in those and make sure that these community meetups can still keep going forward and that we can actually talk to some people in different cities that we might normally have not done before.
So Aaron, thank you for joining us today. I really enjoyed hearing more about how SaturnCloud has invested in the Dask ecosystem, and I'm really looking forward to seeing your talk at PyData Global.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed this, and I'm really looking forward to interacting with everybody at the PyData Global conference.